The most worrying nursing strike so far, according to NHS bosses, has begun. For the first time, nurses will walk out of critical services, but their union says safety will be maintained.
Even on strike days, we are very safe, and we have a duty, colleagues, to protect life and limb.
Also tonight, more evacuees from Sudan land in the UK, but those still trapped now have just one more chance to get out. A gunman suspected of killing 5 of his neighbours is still on the run in Texas 48 hours later. And pleasure and pain at Anfield after a breathless finish by Liverpool against Spurs.
This is DanTV News with Lucy Watson.
Good evening. For the next 26 hours, nurses across England will be on strike, bringing significant disruption to the health service. It is the third walkout by members of the Royal College of Nursing Union in just 4 months. NHS bosses say this action is the most worrying so far. For the first time, nurses will walk out of critical services such as intensive care, although some exemptions have been made to provide urgent care in some hospitals. The Health Secretary has described the action as premature and disrespectful. Here's our political correspondent, Carl Dinnan.
The Royal College of Nursing marked the beginning of their strike this evening with an online event.
8 o'clock, this marks the start of our biggest, most intense strike yet.
But over the weekend, they have agreed more cover in intensive care and emergency departments than originally planned.
Even on strike days, we are very safe, and we have a duty, colleagues, to protect life and limb.
Although more extensive than previous strikes, this one will only last until midnight tomorrow following a legal ruling. The Health Secretary said that by going ahead with it, the RCN are disrespecting other unions.
It's still the case there will be significant disruption to patients, and I think that is disrespectful to the other trade unions that are part of the NHS Staff Council, who will be meeting on Tuesday in order to vote on the fair and reasonable settlement that we agreed with them some weeks ago.
Some NHS unions have accepted the pay offer, whilst others, like the nurses, have not. If Tuesday's Staff Council meeting of unions and employers accepts it, the Health Secretary may give staff the pay rise anyway. But regardless of that, the RCN are voting on further strike action.
If he wants to avert further industrial action by our members, which we will reballot mid-May, that will close mid-June, and then we could see the outcome of that ballot will depend, obviously dependent on it. We could see our members taking industrial action right up to Christmas.
But more strikes are by no means guaranteed. The RCN's leadership had recommended accepting the current pay offer, and the number of members rejecting it, 54%, was not overwhelming. The decision on whether to strike again over an offer that may already be landing in nurses' pay packets will be a tough one.
So, Carl, it was just said in that report there, the idea that the strikes could go up until Christmas. Is that likely, do you think?
I think it's touch and go, actually, because when you take into account turnout, the proportion of nurses who rejected the current offer is only 1/3 of the total membership of the Royal College of Nursing. Now, bear in mind, when they ballot again for strike action, just for the ballot itself to meet the legal threshold, half of all the membership have to take part in it. So I think it's really in the balance whether or not they get there, and that's despite public support for the nurses and their strikes holding up pretty well at about 60%, and all of those people actually blaming the government for any disruption that comes about from the strikes. So I think if anything is potentially on the wane at the moment, it's actually the nurses' own enthusiasm for further strikes.
Carl, thank you. Nothing is ever certain in a war zone, and so it is proving in Sudan. Just as the fighting there seemed to be increasing, a new three-day extension to the fragile ceasefire was declared. And no sooner were the last British citizens airlifted out of Khartoum than the Foreign Office decided it could squeeze in one more flight back to the UK. Sam Holder has the story.
The dark cloud of violence hangs over Sudan. Information is still incredibly difficult to get out of the country. Videos circulating online appear to show a branch of the country's central bank on fire in Khartoum and destruction in the city of Ghanena in the far west. This morning, the British evacuation effort was over. These planes were supposed to be the final ones back to the UK.
The last flight has already taken off. We were clear all the way through this week. The Foreign Secretary was clear that we couldn't guarantee flights out of the country when the ceasefire came to an end.
This plane landing at Stansted tonight was supposed to be the last. But in a surprise move, the government announced an extra flight will take off tomorrow. Across Sudan, people are trying to leave any way they can. The flight for British nationals, NHS workers and their dependents will not depart from the capital. Instead, from here, Port Sudan, 500 miles away on the coast. Travel within the country is perilous. Sarah's brother is still there, caring for an elderly relative. But her mother escaped last week.
I think even the journey to the airport was quite traumatic. They were stopped multiple times at checkpoints. My sister-in-law was accused of being an RSF sympathiser, and they had to sort of explain that, no, she really isn't. And so I think, you know, by the time they got here, it was just pretty horrendous experience all round.
Adil only just made it onto a previous government flight to Cyprus.
Been trying 3 days or 4 days to come. It's so difficult. The situation is that's why it's take really a lot of risk.
So far, 2,122 people have left on 23 British flights. But there are fears that more remain too scared to travel. Sam Holder, ITV News.
A gunman who killed 5 of his neighbours in the US, including an 8-year-old boy, is still on the run 2 days after the tragedy. The FBI has now joined the search for the suspect in Texas. Hamish Alscary has the latest.
A disagreement between neighbours that left 5 people shot dead. Police say the incident occurred after 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza began firing a gun at random outside his home in Cleveland, north of Houston. When a neighbour asked him to stop because a baby was asleep next door, Mr. Oropeza allegedly walked into his neighbour's house and started shooting.
We consider him armed and dangerous, and we're not going to stop until we actually arrest him and bring him into custody. But he is out there and he's a threat to the community.
2 female victims were found lying on top of surviving children after shielding them from the bullets. The youngest killed was just 8 years old. The devastating impact of the shootings is clear, but finding the person responsible is proving harder. Today, the FBI released this new picture of the suspect, who they were tracking using his mobile phone data, but then the trail ran cold.
He could be anywhere now. We located the device that we were looking for, found it abandoned. So at this time, the area has went from 5 or 6 square miles. It could be as much as 10 or 20, depending on whether or not he crossed the Highline Wire.
It's less than a year since 19 students and 2 teachers were killed by a gunman in Uvalde, also in Texas. Now the residents of this small town in San Jacinto County face picking up the pieces of yet another fatal shooting in their state. Hamish Alscary, ITV News.
A man's been arrested on suspicion of murder after another man was stabbed to death in Cornwall. The 30-year-old victim died at the scene near a nightclub in Bodmin just after 3 a.m. this morning. 7 other people were hurt, but none of their injuries are thought to be life-threatening. Liz Truss is contesting a £12,000 bill for her personal use of a government-owned country house when she was Foreign Secretary. A spokesman for Ms Truss said the bill wrongly labels government business as personal expenses. And the moment a car was flipped into the air by a tornado has been caught on camera. The storm in Florida lifted the car and turned it upside down. Dozens of cars were damaged, but no one was seriously hurt. Sport now, and in the Premier League, Liverpool and Spurs provided a 7-goal thriller at Anfield today. After hugely consistent campaigns, neither club looked likely to make the Champions League next season. But Liverpool still have hopes of making Europe after a dramatic finish at home this afternoon. Chris Scudder was watching.
It never rains, it pours for Spurs. A 6-goal thrashing at Newcastle a week ago. And the roof was caving in on them again at Anfield just as disastrously. Any lingering hopes of a Champions League place vanishing fast as Liverpool helped themselves to a 2, then 3-goal lead inside the opening quarter of an hour. For the second time in a week, the long-suffering Spurs fans were walking out inside the first 20 minutes. Under fire chairman Daniel Levy had constructed a lovely new stadium, but the team in need of rebuilding. But hang on, from out of nowhere, Kane and Son got some new, firmer foundations laid. 3-0 became 3-2. Then, remarkably, in stoppage time,
Richarlison, can you believe it?
the man who hadn't scored all season looked to have saved the game against the odds. 3-3. But there was still time for that roof to come crashing down again. Mora's mistake, Jota's winner, 4-3, and amid the bedlam, Jurgen Klopp even pulled a muscle celebrating. What a finish. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
And Manchester City's 22-year-old goal-scoring sensation Erling Haaland scored his 50th goal of the season today, a footballing landmark.
Well, this is Haaland, and this is history.
He's the first top-flight player in England for 92 years to reach a half-century in one season. It helped City to a 2-1 win at Fulham, which takes them to the top of the Premier League. And finally, just in time for the coronation, a new set of church bells rang out for the first time today. What's special about this set of 8 bells in the village of North Curry in Somerset is the monarch's cipher cast into them. They are the first to bear the logo of King Charles, having been cast just after he took to the throne. And that's it from the late team. The weather forecast is up next, but from all of us here, thank you very much for watching. Good night. Bye-bye.
Join us in celebrating the coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla with a special episode of Good Morning Britain live from Westminster Abbey. We'll be joined by famous friends, family, courtiers and commentators as the minutes tick down to this historic occasion. From 6 on Saturday, May the 6th.
First thing today will be lovely and warm, and by breakfast time it could be on the sunny side. Heinz tomato ketchup, no added sugar and salt, sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello again. A fairly showery end to the bank holiday weekend for many parts of the country, but going through the course of the next few days, our weather will be settling down here in the UK. Some brightness to look forward to, it shouldn't feel too chilly, and mostly we avoid frosts by night. The details through Sunday night into Monday: low cloud mistiness, a few showers here and there with rain across parts of Scotland, but frost-free into the early hours of Bank Holiday Monday. Monday itself will slowly brighten up, a cloudy start. Showers will develop across central and southeastern parts of England, and some of these will be heavy and thundery during the afternoon. Patchy rain across Scotland sinks down into northern England during the day and dies away. Brighter skies may develop for western areas. It's certainly a drier day than Sunday, and temperature-wise, the warmest will get to around 18-19 Celsius in the southeast. Always feeling cooler across Scotland, particularly the far north, during the day on Monday. Bye-bye for now.
Heinz tomato ketchup, no added sugar and salt, sponsors ITV National Weather.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV London Weekend Weather.
Hello there, and a very good evening to everybody at home. Well, we've got some rain out there for some of us. It's going to clear away over the next few hours, and that'll lead on to a cloudy start on Bank Holiday Monday, but a relatively mild start. Dry for most of us, temperatures around 9 to 11 degrees Celsius. Now, through tomorrow morning, there is going to be a good deal of cloud and the chance of 1 or 2 showers around, but the breeze is going to pick up from the middle of the morning. We'll see a little bit of brightness breaking through, but also some showers developing, and those showers certainly becoming much more frequent from the middle part of the day. The chance of the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. But despite all of that, temperatures remaining on the mild side, highs of around 16 to 19 degrees Celsius. Now, any of these showers are going to fade as we head through Monday evening, and then through Tuesday and Wednesday, a dry few days to come. All of the weather fronts waiting in the southwest to push in. So it's Thursday that we're going to see our next weather system. Now, ahead of this main band of rain, you can see those isobars just starting to tighten. So as we head through Tuesday and Wednesday, turning a little bit breezier, although it is going to be largely dry, and then by Thursday, something wet starting to push in. So some frequent showers as we head through Bank Holiday Monday, dry on Tuesday and Wednesday, and eventually some showery rain pushing in on Thursday.
Valent sponsors ITV London Weekend Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Well, there's still plenty of tree pollen around, but we're also starting to see signs of grass pollen. That's going to be moderate as we head through Monday, bouncing up to high on Tuesday and on Wednesday. Bye-bye.